Yo, 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 welcome to Philosopher's Stoned. I'm Brian, and today I got a special episode, one close to my heart. The Anunnaki. And there's just so much with the Anunnaki, if you don't know. Basically, the idea of ancient aliens. I'm sure everyone's familiar with the show. An author and researcher named Zecharia Sitchin is one of the first, I do believe. And then we get into Eric Von Daniken, but I don't cover any of that stuff over here. We're just going to get right into the Anunnaki. This is going to be, a series. I'm going to do more than one video on the Anunnaki. Probably going to do several. I'm just going to keep going. The more I research them, the more stuff I find, the more I'm going to take notes and relate it over here. Alright, the Anunnaki. The engineers of mankind, the ancient aliens. The story of the Anunnaki to me tells the tale of how we became us. How humanity genetically came to be. I have to say all of this research I've done is it's done in a speculative light because, it's based on translations, and the credibility and the accuracy of said translations are argued all the time with these dudes. Because they're always there's a whole website saying that it's literally called sitchiniswrong.org or .com or some bullshit. Alright, so I'm just reporting on what I've read on my own. Alright, so sometime in the mid 1800s, 1830s to 1870s, I found a few different dates. German and British archaeologists digging in Iraq found 12 ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablets. Some words right there, man. They were found in the palace of the Assyrian king Ashur-banipal. Okay, so also found was a bunch of sculptures with art depicting humanoid beings, but different, like bigger, larger in size. They had helmets with antennas, and they were flying around in rocket ships. So cuneiform, which is the alphabet thing that it was the way it was written in, is a wedge-shaped writing used in Mesopotamia. These tablets allegedly tell the real, true story of humanity and how we got here. They also found cylinder seals, which was the first ever form of printing. So they carved out hieroglyphic pictures backwards, so when they pressed it on the clay, they pressed the carving stone into the clay, it would come out facing the right way. It's pretty early on stuff. These seals themselves were made out of extremely hard stone consisting of obsidian and hematite. So that's some hard metals that we don't have anymore, like Damascus steel and shit like that. So Mesopotamia was somewhere between the Tigris and Euphrates River, which is now modern-day Iraq. The Anunnaki are from planet Nibiru, a.k.a. Planet X, a.k.a. the 12th planet, according to Zecharia Sitchin. Nibiru is a rogue planet pulled in by Neptune's gravity, and at one point, one of Nibiru's moons collided with Tiamat, a planet between Mars and Jupiter, and hit Earth, causing a hole that would be found in the Pacific Ocean if you drained it out. All the debris from the hole would later form what we know as the asteroid belt. From what Sitchin translated, the Anunnaki brought seven atomic weapons to Earth as well. That's interesting. Similar to the story of what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah, atomic weapons were used in ancient times. Maybe the Bible is telling us a story of a nuclear fallout in a biblical way versus science fiction approach like we see in the media today. A lot of Sumerian kings are depicted with the few items that keep coming up over and over and over again. They gotta have some importance. So let's start with the handbag. It is said to carry the water of life, according to Sitchin. Graham Hancock has also brought this up a few times in the recent years. I've listened to interviews firsthand where he talks about this. I think it contains some type of creation DNA, like a substance that creates DNA the way you engineer it, like the black goo from the Aliens Prometheus story. Yeah, so something that mutates your DNA at your own engineering. In Hindu, there's also the Shiva handbag, so there's a coincidence there. Another item seen in the depictions in scriptures is like a sundial-looking watch. It looks literally like someone took a sundial and made a band around it and made it a watch. So, that makes sense. That's how they tell time back then, right? And finally, the pine cone, which is rightfully metaphorical for the pineal gland. The pineal gland, the thing in your brain that controls the DMT when you dream and when you die, and when you're born. I'm pretty sure too. Your third eye. Let's get into the family tree. We got King Anu, king of Nibiru, chief of heaven and earth, celestial body of Uranus, married to Antu, father of the sons of God who came down to earth. Anu's throne room is the place of the assembly of the gods, visited in heaven by Inanna, Ishtar, among other Anunnaki, as well as biblical Enoch. We're going to get into Ishtar and Inanna and Nergal and Ninurta and all these other fucking gods in another episode. I don't have time for that right now. When I say celestial body of Uranus, all of the gods took a planet as their celestial body, so that's going to come up time and time again. And then we'll go down to Enlil. He's real important. Son and heir to the king. Spouse was Ninlil, celestial body of Neptune. He was banished to the lower world for raping Sud/Ninlil, who later became his wife. His crimes were forgiven. He was born on Nibiru from Anu and Anu's sister wife, which is Antu, making his bloodline pure, allowing him to be next in line to be king over his older brother Enki. This is some Game of Thrones Lannister shit. Founder of Garden of Eden in Sumer/Southern Iraq, overseer of gold taken from Abzu in lower part of the world. So he got South America, the southern half of the world. That's cool, I guess. He's accredited with giving mankind agriculture and sheep. He had a son, Ninurta, with his half-sister Ninhursag, who also born of the double seed. So Ninurta was also to be Enlil's heir. He had 2 sons with his wife Ninlil, Nanar, and Adad. So he gave the final approval for kingship to be lowered from heaven, established high priests and priestesses as positions over authority for the giant mixed breed of offsprings of the gods, acting as a middleman between the humans and Anunnaki. Yeah, sounds like the Nephilim. That's what we're talking about here. Resort back to the first episode where I give a little biblical background on them boys. This fool created the deluge to wipe out humanity after Noah's flood. He decides gods no longer commingle with earth humans, and the earthlings' years would be shortened to 120 years before they didn't die of old age and only disease. So that's what I'm gathering. They redid us at one point. They fucking went into our little programming. No longer lives 1,000 years. We live 120 years. But shit, man. 120 years is pretty fucking long, too. That's shit. Most people don't live past 60 these days. And back then, before humanity got changed to 120 years, we only died of disease. We didn't die of old age. We just were there. Working. Mining gold. Some of this stuff is gonna, make more sense when I explain it later. Not the actual thing. I mean, it's always going to be kind of spacey for me because it's just, we don't have the direct translations from these boys. So we'll move down to Enki, which is King Anu's eldest and wisest son, also born on Nibiru. His mother was Urash, a concubine, so that's the reason he wasn't next in line over Enlil to be king. He wasn't the pure blood, even though he was born on Nibiru. He was a celestial body of Mercury. Today we see him as a feathered serpent, 2 coiled snakes, double helix, I think the health symbol or whatever is that fool. He's said to be the wisest of the gods. Wrote his own biography and tales of his adventures on Earth, like Indiana Jones of the Anunnaki type. He was a master engineer. I'm guessing a technology creator. He was the one who was like, hey, a lawnmower would cut the grass better than your fingers or some scissors. And he was the guy who did that. The keeper of the discs of knowledge, which I'm guessing is what was passed down somehow. Gods of the waters, ruler of Abzu, which is the marshlands of the Persian Gulf. He built ships to mine gold in South Africa and then shipped it all in bulk over to his little bro Enlil. He's like, here's some gold, dog. You know what I'm saying? Things aren't cool between us. Here's some gold. His patron city was, I said patron, his patron city was Eridu. Supposedly the first city ever built. Eridu. We should get into that on the next episode. Accredited with forming the rivers and draining the marshlands. Like I said, he rivaled his younger half brother Enlil. Shit. He rivaled his younger brother Enlil for the command of Earth. He was promised Nibiru through his arranged marriage with the former king Alalu's daughter Ninki. Alalu was an ex-king who attempted to take the throne of Nibiru, escaped to Earth, and ended up finding our universally famous gold, contacted Nibiru to come and gather it as if he was a hero who found an abundance of the supreme natural resource on a noble quest. That wasn't the case. Enki had 6 sons. 2 of them were Marduk and Nergal. Marduk's celestial body was Nibiru, which makes him kind of our little main character of this whole story is Marduk, in my eyes. Genetically altered man with his son and sister, giving him the tree of knowledge, gave his DNA for the fashioning of modern man. So he used the original model, man's descendants, as workers to mine all the gold mines in South Africa. Then a second time he genetically altered us, and this is when he fornicated with the daughters of man and created, the Nephilim. So he made all that, stirred all that shit up in the Bible for our boy God. He saved mankind from Enlil's decision to completely exterminate us, helping his son, who is actually Noah from the Hebrew text, Ultra-Haces from Babylon text, and so on. Accredited with giving mankind animal domestication, construction, metallurgy, shipbuilding, and more. So, thanks for pets. We'll get down to Ninurta. Next heir to King Anu following his father Enlil, born on Nibiru. So this is Enlil's kid. Along with Marduk, the only other from his generation to be born on Nibiru. All the other younger were born on Earth. Seemed to be a great warrior. Battled and shot down Anzu, retrieving the tablets of Destines, which were stolen from his father, Enlil, which were technologies needed to command. I'm guessing those discs of knowledge, maybe. Then Ninurta and his cousin Nergal nuked Marduk's patron cities and brought down his Tower of Babel. You might know the story of the Tower of Babel. It's a famous thing. We're definitely going to cover that in the next one. His symbol is the double-headed eagle, which we still see a lot all the time today. So that's the family tree. The Anunnaki comes back and upgrades the Egyptians, the Incas, Mayans, Olmecs, and the Aztecs. All the monoliths and the pyramids were built by the Anunnaki. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which introduces ancient tech of cloning, robotics, space travel. I think there's even mentions of laser weapons and nuclear war. We're going to do an Epic of Gilgamesh episode for 100% for sure. Definitely going to do an Epic of Gilgamesh episode. I wanted to mention the Anunnaki's hand in the flood. They supposedly took DNA from every living thing on Earth and put it in a box on the Ark with Noah. There were no animals on the Ark. That's what I was reading earlier. I think every mythology takes after Sumerians. Their historical text is what every religion takes from. I just feel like it all points back to them. Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, all the same place. They're all referred to as the cradle of civilization, which means the beginning to me. I mean, cradle to the grave, baby. Hey. Okay, let's get into the clashing of the Anunnaki. The fucking fighting. Because you know there's going to be some fighting with these old-ass, weird, high-level intelligent. You know how a bunch of smart dudes get in a room and just start arguing. They don't get along. So Marduk races around the planet just fast as fuck, being an annoying little nephew, but doesn't impress any of his uncles. He actually angers Tiamat, whose celestial body is Earth. So we on Tiamat right now. Location Tiamat. Tiamat is he's ready to go to war with Marduk. He want it. He's squaring up. He about it. And Tiamat is responsible for a moon. Originally, oh, it's our moon. Tiamat is responsible for our moon. Originally made as a satellite named Kangu. We'll get into that on a later episode. Seems as though Anu and Enlil didn't want to go against Marduk, so they sided with him. They're like, all right, our little nephew, or this little dude. Enlil's like, my son's buck. I'm just gonna side with him. Marduk charges Tiamat and collides with them. He's feeling bold. He splits the earth in two. One piece ends up being our asteroid belt, and the other piece is the earth that we live on today. The early visits from the Nephilim and Anunnaki to Earth were simply scouting missions. They were just seeing what we got so far as resources. They found petroleum first, I believe, and later they found the precious metals like gold that they so longly lusted after. There's an Assyrian tablet that I'm going to put up that shows a star chart. That's real interesting that Sitchin uses all the time. In the Atrahasis, the first record of cloning or DNA splicing is shown. And the overthrow of the older gods and how they created man to be the working class, since the Anunnaki were sick of working. They were sick of working for the old gods, you know what I'm saying? They were like, fuck this. So our boy Enki was tasked with designing this new slave class of species, but he's like, yo, Earth already has a slave class. It's an extremely prehistoric Neanderthal race that we're going to have to do some work to. So like any mad scientist, they made some mistakes along the way. They called them missteps. They didn't call them mistakes. One version of the working class, for instance, man couldn't stop pissing themselves. They cloned a bunch of men and they were just peeing all over the place, which sounds hilarious. I want to cover this next part because it goes back to that first episode about the Nephilim. I've always been confused about the flood, so this part kind of explains it. And honestly, it's most likely where the original story came from that they threw in the Bible. So let's discuss the chief sin of the gods was mixing of the Nephilim and the human man, which according to the Bible happens in Genesis. So once human women started popping up all over the place, these gods were like, yo, what do? We want to do something with them. So Anu says, well, we got to erase this. You know, they're mixing the blood. They're making it unpure. Hater. So he wipes the slate clean and rids the earth of everything. That's what he wants to do. And he tasks Enki to arrange and execute this cleansing of humanity. But Enki's like, I can't have this blood on my hands. He's going to pass the responsibility off to this human ruler of Sumeria named Utnapishtim. Utnapishtim. Alright, so he's the same story as Noah. Enki tells Utnapishtim to build a big-ass boat, put one of everything on it, and survive the flood. The Nephilim and the Anunnaki bounce out from Earth as soon as they hit that flood switch, thinking, okay, we covered our tracks. Anything that even survives will be rendered useless in the brain. So after the flood, the Nephilim see that there's a designated survivor. And they are furious with Enki, thinking he arranged this little dude to save humanity. But old silver-tongued Enki he can convince his uncles and dads of anything. He was like, yo, it's not my idea. This dude did it all on his own accord. Like, Utnapishtim is just he's that guy. So then that allows Enki to keep reproducing with human women again on Earth, so that's why there's more. Basically, that's where we at for this one. This is going to be a topic I'm always going to be researching, always going to be discussing, talking to people about it that don't really care about it. But I don't give a shit. So don't talk to me if you don't want to hear about the Anunnaki. I want to get more into the Anunnaki wars at some point because that's just like ancient cosmic wars. It's just the coolest shit to me. Alright, this is Philosopher's Stone, episode 3. Thank you very much. I'll be releasing the next episode pretty soon. Michael Aquino in the Temple of Set. He's a weird dude. I'm covering some weird dudes on this channel. This might be the Weird Dude channel. Hosted by a weird dude. Alright, thank you. Bye-bye.